Hello, friends. Nothing like trying to chat with your microphone not working. Okay, here comes Stream Elements. Where's my overlay? It's always something. Happy Saturday. I am back. There it is. I am back. I was not here last week. I was feeling a little under the weather. Don't worry, nothing serious, but I'm back now. And I'm so excited because we're here for another episode of 20 Questions. Now, let me get a little bio for my guest here. I'm going to just... I'm cheating, Jim. My guest is Jim. I'm going to read it off his Twitter bio. He is the founder of the Academy of eSports. He's also a PhD candidate. He's also an educator. He also likes Irish bread and shops local. And we are going to learn about all of this and more for the next hour. So let's welcome James. Hi.
Hi, James or Jim. You
James
called me
or
both.
Jim.
And it's funny in my life, that's how I know when people know me, because I've gone through all the different iterations of my name. So in college, a lot of my friends will call me Jimmy. After college, it was Jim. After my divorce, it became James because I worked in a building with another Jim and they couldn't handle that. So
too many.
Yeah, too many Jims. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I did
became
ask
James.
you, to be fair, what you preferred. And I think I just like them both. So we're just
I do too.
Yeah. Okay, good. So tell me about your background. Are you an arcade ex-arcade player? Is that what you've chosen?
Well, I mean, I'm a child of the 80s, so I think all of us were in some way
That's true.
lived in an arcade. And if it wasn't an arcade, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of these arcade games were in, grocery stores, drugstores, pizza places, restaurants. I mean, you could find arcade games. Yeah, there was an entire summer that I spent in Long Island with my grandparents, and there was a pizza place up the corner, and they had 1942 and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And I remember stealing all my uncle's quarters that he had in his big quarter jar and going up the corner and playing for hours. So
yeah, also a child of the 80s, so I remember when they built the brand new big arcade in like the good mall. Every city's got like the crappy mall and the good mall, and the good mall got a brand new arcade, and it was like the best thing ever.
We didn't have, so where the good arcade was, where I grew up in the Bay Area in the San Francisco area, was out in Foster City, a place called Fashion Island Mall, where they had an arcade named Tilt, which was right next to the ice rink.
Arcade. It was Tilt.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think everybody had a Tilt. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were a brand or I thought one person thought like, that's a really cool name. And it's really, and then everybody copied it. I don't know.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Tilt was the rest of the mall closed and Tilt was left open. And the ice rink that was right next to it was left open because that's where Christy Yamaguchi, who was a Olympic ice skater, won gold medal. That's where she practiced.
Yes.
So,
oh, wow. Well,
but Fashion Island went out of business. It's not there anymore. So,
okay. Well, yeah, Tilt's long gone. Anyway, welcome, James. I'm so glad to have you here for 20 Questions, where we're going to talk a little bit about your esports life, your educator life, your PhD life.
Cool.
As you know, there are 10 questions that I sent you ahead of time. I like to think of this as a career day. So people are here to learn a bit about how you got to where you are in case they too want to follow in your footsteps. And then the second half will be random, which I know you said you're afraid of, but you don't need to be afraid.
No. I'm not afraid. No, I think I looked at it. To be honest, I think I looked at the 10 questions when you sent them to me, but I didn't. So, but they're going to be fresh again. I think I'll just say.
I mean, they're not really things you have to prepare for. You're just telling us about you and your life. So, I mean, it's not like you had to do any research. So let's get into it. What inspired you to pursue games as your career? Was it your experiences at Tilt? Maybe.
Well, actually, I think the idea about games being my career was never in the forefront. Let's just say the idea of games being a part of my career is more, I think the better way to say it. Again, growing up in the 80s, I could literally see EA Electronic Arts building from my bedroom window because we lived in San Mateo up on a hill a little bit, and you could look out over the Bay Area, and it was beautiful. And like I said, EA was just staring me in the face. Playing video games growing up, going over to my friends there, and we never had a console in my house. That's why several months ago I was playing Legend of Zelda for the first time, and everybody was kind of shocked. And I'm like, nope, never had an NES growing up. never played a Zelda game before, so I really dove in there. But um, gaming has been kind of on the periphery of everything that I do. I'm an educator first, and I'm very interested in how games and gameplay can be used in schools to help educate children and to educate not just children, but adults and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Even I remember when I first started teaching, one of the things that we used was SimCity, but I didn't use it as an individual. I used it with my class, gave kids jobs. We had an economy and everything in the whole class. And then we were basically running what was a Sim City with like a city council kind of experience with some of our kids. So gaming has been, like I said, integrated in part of now, of course, the last 5 years plus, I've been involved with the Academy of Esports and also helping to bring esports into schools as part of my as an additional part to my job that I do. It hasn't been the main focus, but it's been a passion project. And I feel like I've gotten to that point in my life where those passions, I think, are becoming more prevalent and making it more a permanent, the passion more the permanent job, hopefully in the near future.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you just kind of, you started slow, but slowly over time now games have become more central to what it is you're doing in your day to day.
If I wasn't, let me put it this way, if I was a new teacher now trying to do this, there's a lot of experience that you get as an educator when you're not focusing on these things and you're focusing on all the other things around it. Like, it's not just getting up in front of the room and teaching a class of kids. It's knowing every one of those kids. It's knowing how to interact with them, what gets them excited, what gets them engaged. And the common thing that I always come back to, and it's the question I ask every kid that I come in, that I have a one-on-one with, is what video games do you play?
Mm-hmm.
And it immediately creates a common language. So even if I wasn't a gamer, we shall say, I would still probably in some form have games in my life, even though I'm terrible at almost all of them. I would still have games in some form of my life because it's important as part of my job to be informed in that space, to be aware of what's going on. Even before we just started 20 questions, my daughter pulled me away from the opening Conic rugby match for the Pro 14 season. And we sat and we watched the Minecraft release stream just now. And, and that to me is, again, finding those commonalities, being able to have those conversations with kids and making gaming part of the bigger conversation around education, and now being able to tie it into career pathways and talk about, this doesn't have a stigma as much as it used to in the past. That there are parents like me who grew up playing video games who haven't turned into mass murderers or, degenerates or anything of that nature. We're good people who just love playing these kinds of games and playing them with our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cultural competency, I would say, in the 21st century, understanding games and being able to engage people. And just to maybe take one step back, can you just tell our friends here what age group that you teach? And can you tell us a little bit about the Academy of Esports, just to catch them up to speed? I know all these things.
Sure. So first off, my main role is I'm the director of digital and virtual learning for the Racine Unified School District. So you can imagine my business is pretty busy right now. My district is completely remote. And while I'm not directly involved in the remote side of things, I also oversee our fully virtual program. So we did give parents an option, even though we're in this remote setting right now, to have a completely virtual experience. And so I'm working with kids from kindergarten all the way through to seniors in high school and beyond. And a lot of it is working with their parents as well in these spaces, because a lot of parents, teaching in a fully virtual space doesn't necessarily work the same way as a traditional school. A lot of parents need some guidance in these times, as well as to what is their role. And for a lot of parents, that becomes some of the coaching and mentoring that I have to do as well as part of my job. But also as part of my job, I'm also overseeing all the libraries for the school district. I really believe in the importance of our public libraries and our school libraries, and having those fully staffed and having the collections to be, diverse and reflective of the community in which the students we serve and beyond, not just showing themselves, but also opening up to a bigger world. And and then I oversee the whole school district esports program. I'm also involved at the state level with our state association when it comes to esports. I'm also involved at the state level when it comes to it's called Council on Library and Network Development. So we are an advisory board to the state around the bigger picture around our public libraries. And and then the Academy of Esports. That is, again, my podcast that I do. Dr. Cohort has been a guest on the Academy of Esports, and it's also kind of my platform to hopefully open people's eyes to the bigger picture of what esports can bring to schools, which is redefining. And I'm starting to think differently on this, not just redefine our athletic culture, but starting to redefine our esports culture as well, because we know our esports culture has major problems. I want to diversify opportunities for student participation in schools. I want to promote good mental and physical health. I want to increase the career and collegiate scholarship pathways. And the most important thing that we're trying to do, not just with the Academy of Esports, but what I'm trying to do in my job as well as director of digital virtual learning is to put the importance back into play. And in schools, I think we've done a terrible job over the last 20 years when it comes to play and education, especially in the United States after we had No Child Left Behind and high stakes testing became kind of the norm. It's really important that we put play back in, and play doesn't just happen on the playground, though it's important as well. I'm not saying everything needs to be digital, but digital play as well, because that's where kids are also playing right now. And we need to step into these spaces and be mindful of and supportive of students in these spaces, because they are very important. I got to say, we have a district Discord server for all of our students in our esports programs. And right now they're all remote, they're all at home, but the lunch break will hit and kids from all over different schools are playing a lot of Among Us right now. They're doing a lot of Among Us right now. So it's kind of fun to see how kids are playing during their high school kids mostly are playing during their recess time during this pandemic.
Yeah, see, high school kids, play is important throughout our life. It's not,
and the adults are getting in too. So it's not just the kids; it's all us general managers and coaches as well.
Yeah, it's important. It's so important. Well, thank you. That was a great. You're busy. That's what I got from that. You're a very busy man, and you do a lot of
yes,
things. Yes. So, what would you say is the biggest misconception about all of these hats that you wear about how your role in education or your role in esports coaching? What's the biggest misconception you think you see?
That I don't have time to eat or sleep, but
it doesn't sound like you do.
It doesn't.
Is that a misconception?
But, yes. No, I do sleep. I love sleep, and we know how important sleep is. And but I think the biggest misconception about all this is just around, and I think this time that we're having a lot of remote learning experiences, I think is opening up the eyes to a lot of people on that it doesn't have to be for a kid who doesn't necessarily fit into a traditional school. I think that there are some families who are finding that the flexibility that virtual learning offers is very advantageous. In fact, I just have a second grader right now whose family decided to go to Mexico for the next couple of months, and he's taking his school with him. He's taking everything with him to school, and he's not going to miss a day of school, and the family's going to be there while I'm sitting in my office, ironically, in Racine. I would love to have I keep telling people I'm going to just flee to the west of Ireland and still do my job from there. But
you could. No one would know.
No, they're insisting that I come in. But before all this, before COVID, before the pandemic, there were a lot of people who looked again at virtual in a very different way. They thought virtual was just going to be school like school is. It's just done through like YouTube or whatever. And really, while there are experiences like that, I think that a lot of kids are finding out right now that they don't want to sit in front of a computer for 6 hours a day and be lectured to in a very impersonal way.
Yeah.
So the misperception that we have with our program is that we work very asynchronously, which only works really for a certain number of kids, certain type of student. You have to be a lot of self-motivated learner, needs to be connected with much more. There has to be better communication with that child between myself and the child and the teachers and the children, because if they're left to their own devices sometimes and they're not having guidance, they're not getting feedback, they're not having expectations of even a schedule or anything, they can really fall behind. And so there's a lot. Our mission for my department is we make virtual personal, which is a really hard thing to do right now. So but the impersonality of virtual, I think, doesn't have to be that way. And I think that there are great ways that we can make virtual, like I said, much more personal.
Yeah, and it is, and it's important to say, it's important to note that you mentioned that some kids thrive in it and some kids don't. Because I know that I have neighbors across the
Yes.
street and she's like, I can't do virtual because my kids aren't learning anything. Whereas my kids are like, I get an hour a day with my teacher. I'm good. I can do all the rest on my own. Like, I don't need more than that.
Yeah. And a lot of times I get administrators, best of intentions, who say, oh, well, this child's not attending school, but we really feel virtual would be a really good option for them.
Yeah, probably
If
not.
your child is not attend,
Yeah.
unless, and now that's not to say that's always the case, but
Yeah.
typically the things that I run into, there are kids who are completely disengaged from school, and that is not a good virtual in our sense is not a good option. But there are children who I have come across over the last several years. And I call my virtual program the land of misfit toys in a lot of ways, because again, we're trying to find that common, how do we get this child to understand and learn and engage in school? But we have a lot of kids who have mental health issues, who just, the climate of the building does not agree with them. We have children who get bullied. I have children who are high flyers, kids who are like, the school's moving way too slow for me. I think that if we had done a better job, the only way to do a better job of planning where we are right now, as far as how school is launching, there's a lot of teachers I know who are struggling, but I'll guarantee you there's probably a lot of teachers who are involved in alternative education programs who feel that this is just another day. There's
Right.
alternative ed. I think the model is pretty much what we're doing right now in a lot of ways too.
Right.
So to engage kids, where there is a lot more asynchronous, where kids are learning at different paces and in our different places. And I think that's a good thing, because again, it plays to the intrinsic motivations of kids, or to move their extrinsic motivation more towards an intrinsic motivation of getting them to do things and being self-responsible and self-starters.
Yeah, definitely. So then what would you say is what you spend the most time on during the day? It must be different now post-COVID, what you spend most of your time doing.
But the best part of my job, of all the things, is that I have over 40 full-time virtual students in grades 6 through 12 who I mentor. And if you looked at my schedule, I have 40 different 15-minute meetings throughout my week already booked out through until June, that I'm meeting with these students on a regular basis. They're 10, 15-minute conversations that, sometimes go really deep into what they're doing with their schoolwork. Sometimes they only last for a couple of minutes, because I've got some kids who are just, they just need that check-in, and they're like, nope, everything's good. I'm great with all my grades and my pacing's great, and I have no questions. And then, like, even yesterday, I had a meeting with a child where they were playing Minecraft, and he asked me, do you want me to stop playing? I'm like, no, keep playing. We'll just talk. And I know, because he's one of these kids who needs that engagement of having something in their hands, and he actually talks better when he's playing, and having the conversations with parents. And those 10, 15-minute conversations with kids really make me believe that the work that we are doing is really good work, and we're making major impacts in kids through this medium. And that, to me, brings me the most joy in the job right now, is talking with these kids.
That's very... That makes my heart happy, because it doesn't seem like that's something every teacher does, but I'm sure that the students love to have those 10, 15 minutes individualized with their teacher, where they can talk about what they're doing.
What I'm trying to teach them to be too, when we're having these conversations, is, again, I try to tell them, look, I'm not here to beat you up. If you're not finishing your work, that's okay. I use growth mindset in this way. I say, this is where we are, and I'm not mad at you that you took all last week off. You messed up.
Yeah.
You had a bad week, whatever it was, you took all last week off. This is where you are right now.
Yeah.
I'm your champion. I'm your guide. Let's build this plan for how you're going to get to the end of next week. And let's plan what that looks like. And so it becomes these partnerships. It becomes these, the mentorship is huge. And it goes back to the research work of Dr. Sugata Mitra, when he talked about his school in the cloud, in the granny cloud, when he put the computer in the wall in India, in a slum in India, and these self-organized learning environments grew out of it. And they were able to get these kids to a certain level of knowledge, expertise. But they found that having a mentor, somebody who wasn't a teaching teacher, but somebody who was just interested in what they were doing and developed a relationship with them, it helped break them through to the next level. It helped keep them engaged. It kept the interest up. It allowed them to share and replicate what they were seeing and learning, and share it back with like a person like myself. So
Right.
the mentorship is really important in all the
Yeah.
work that we do.
Yeah. No, it's key. It's key. So what would be one piece of advice you would offer to somebody who wanted to get into education and integrate games into their curriculum?
Well, the beautiful part right now is that the world is wide open. And I don't like to call it people keep talking about a Wild West experience. And I had worked out a better analogy. It seems like we're all coming up with different analogies for what this current time is. I feel like in a lot of ways, it's not so much a Wild West, but it's more of a space race, if you will. So while, in the space race, the Russians got to space first, it didn't mean that the space race ended.
Right.
Just because the Americans got to the moon didn't mean the space race. And though a lot of people will say that it did, but I don't believe that. And I think it's really important to think that just because people are doing things first, or people have these really good ideas or around esports and education and gaming and education, that doesn't mean that the push and the drive is going to stop, because those of us who are involved right now, who are bringing gaming into schools, the people who are bringing in esports into schools, who are doing it properly, who are really not just doing this about the games or about the computers, but really think of this as a holistic experience and how it can really engage kids who are not engaging in schools. I think that that's something that can excite a lot of people. So if you're new coming into this and you have an idea about, I want to bring gaming in some form into the classroom, first of all, your kids may or may not love it. So make sure you find out, you have to talk to your kids and find out what they like and what they don't, but don't be afraid to try it. When 20 years ago, when I started teaching, there was still the stigma around games and gameplay. And it took these intellectual conversations to really make people believe that we weren't just playing video games to play video games, but there was something educational and value to it.
Yes. There's a lot of research now about the value of games, especially in education settings.
Well, and if you're new getting into this, my gosh, I mean, you've got, if you're thinking about your master's work or your doctoral work, now's the time to start playing around and developing your expertise. But the other thing that I think a lot of people are worried about right now, and this is maybe a bit of advice too for somebody who's new, there is that fear of missing out. There is that I'm getting left behind feeling. There is that, oh, my administration's against me and they don't just get it. It is more important in my eyes to, if you're bringing in games or bringing in esports into your school, to really think through not just the game, but really think through, what are you trying to get at with? What are your goals? How are your goals going to impact teaching and learning, or student engagement, or whatever the way I always tell people to start is go look at your school's strategic goals or your district strategic goals. And if they don't have any, you need a different district or a different school, because they should. But look at those and use those as your talking points. If gaming and esports doesn't fit into every single one of those, you need to go back and look at them again, because I can guarantee you, if there isn't one, let me tell you this to people who are listening. If there's one that you find that you don't feel can be used with regards to gaming and esports, send it to me and I will help you to get that sorted.
Because it can.
It can. It should.
So, in addition to all your teacher stuff and your mentoring, you're also a grad student.
Oh God.
And
yes.
Question number 5
very
is,
much so.
Give us 3 adjectives that would describe your graduate school experience.
Okay.
There's this deep sigh. I feel like everyone gives me the sigh before they give me their adjective.
Well, because, scary is one, because there is a lot. You see the goal, but there's a lot of unknowns in between all that. Can be we'll say overwhelming, because again, going through grad school, I'm doing it while working a full-time job, which has its benefits and its drawbacks as well. But the last one I will say is it has been fulfilling. It is, while my grad school experience started in 2007. So I've been doing this now for 13 years, grad school, between master's and PhD. And still I'm on my dissertation. And that is, gosh, you think about it now, that's a quarter of my life that I've been in grad school. And but it's fulfilling because it's made me and forced me to think about things on totally different levels, to engage with people from different school districts and with different ideas, and to make connections with people all around the world. The things that I love is that it seems that this whole new space is opened up for research and for being quizzical, and things that, dissertations weren't allowed to be written about years ago now are allowed, all of a sudden very hot. Again, talking about gaming and learning and technology and virtual spaces and all that stuff. In the past, that might have been something that people were like, you need a better topic or something that's more relevant. Now it's like, oh gosh, yes, gaming. Oh gosh, virtual spaces. Absolutely. So yeah, those three, what I say, overwhelming, fulfilling, and scary.
Yeah. Even when I was doing my PhD in 2014-ish is when I started, I always had to have the spiel of why games were important. This is why games are, and it was still at that point looked down upon, but I feel like, 5-6 years later, it's definitely changed. We have a comment from the audience going back a bit. Mr. Gav says, the concept of shoving a bunch of kids in one room and trying to teach them has never been the best idea.
No, it's not. It is not. Especially even before COVID. I'm one who there's an idea that I've promoted for the last several years, and it gets weird looks, and I don't think I found the right space. But my idea is this: do away with grades, do away with standardized testing, do away with local assessments. You have, in my mind, and it's difficult to kind of talk through, but I'll do it very quick. Try to do it quickly. Give every child 12. We'll call them buckets because I can't never think of another phrase for it. Give them 12 buckets of standards, things that we want you to know or experience before you leave us, before you graduate. And I don't care if the kid is 8 years old, 10 years old, 13 years old, 16 years old, or 21, when they can prove proficiency for all those standards, they should be allowed to graduate. I feel like I have this idea of almost having kind of like where we're at right now, where in our virtual experience, fully virtual experience, everything's very asynchronous. Kids are learning at their own pace and they're driven by their interests and their subjects. Some are, some aren't. But really finding those experiences and being able to evaluate those standards, even if you're not a, let's say, math teacher, but you're doing a unit that involves math, that involves, let's say, multiplication tables, something to do with social studies and looking at, population graphs or whatever. You should be able, as a social studies teacher, to look at that math standard and go, oh, they showed me how they could graph and they could do multiplication. They're showing me proficiency. I'm going to set that.
Right.
And that's kind of, and think about that. You're asking a social studies teacher to grade a math standard. But if we're going to have these interdisciplinary studies where we're trying to present education as this more global thing, it's not such a crazy idea, is it, to say, well, if they know all the stuff that we want them to know, why are we still keeping them here?
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
And I want our campuses to look more like a college, where like if you're going to go in, you can meet your professor, you can meet your teacher, smaller spaces, come in and do what you need to for a few hours and go home.
And then leave.
But I know the realities too is that there's a lot of parents who, even right now, especially, are struggling with having their kids home or having irregular schedules.
In the COVID times, it's a little bit different. But I mean, even when you were talking about with the buckets and the proficiency, I know for me, like my children are in their classroom, all the kids are at different levels, right? So I feel like I'm always constantly fighting, like, okay, this work is too easy or this work is too hard. Can we like adjust the work? And they're like, no, this work is standard. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And I'm all about universal design for learning concepts. So universal design will tell you to meet kids where they're at. So give them multiple pathways to express themselves. So like, again, I said, writing a paper for me, writing my dissertation work has been painful because when it comes to writing, I don't like doing it. But if I could do something like this, where I, use my Twitch stream as my dissertation channel and just go, here's my dissertation, here's my research.
Sorry, James, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
I know. The one time, there is a thing about academia is very traditional. I can't imagine they would ever budge from. Please write us 500 pages of text.
Yes.
So if I asked your parents what you did, what would they say?
My father just moved in near me, and just says I constantly look exhausted. So he will probably say I don't sleep. That's my job, is not
That's your
sleeping.
job. Okay.
Ironically, um, my mother though, she'll say I take care of kids.
Oh,
She'll say that I'm an advocate for kids. That's
okay.
my job as an educator. I every child, bad or good. I work with a lot of expelled students as well.
Mm.
Was so happy last year to have one who graduated. She was actually up for felony charges
Oh,
and
wow.
went to the courthouse, went to her hearing, sat with her, and she got let off, thank goodness. And she did not rest on that. She completed her high school education and graduated last summer. So that child and sadly her family had literally abandoned her and gone back to Mexico.
Mm.
She completed her high school education and now she's going to college, and she texts me on a regular basis. I mean,
Oh.
I believe in helping all kids find that thing that just engages them into society and life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Being an advocate for children might be the best job title that anyone could have. That's pretty fantastic.
Right. Right.
So what's one book about games or gaming that you would recommend everybody reads?
You mean other than yours?
Ah, stop. You can recommend mine. No, other than mine. Which one are you talking about? Video game debate? Which one of my books are you talking about? I'm curious.
Well, your chapter in the psychology of Final Fantasy.
Ah, that's a good one.
I mean, you did do the chapter in that, and I do have your other book because I did read it before the podcast. Now I'm blanking on it, but
That's fine.
if I had to have one book about game or gaming, man, I
It's a hard question.
okay, there's one that I have, and there's nothing philosophical. Well, I'll say that the Moral Combat is probably one of the best ones I've read.
That's a
Dr. Chris
fantastic book.
Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Moral Combat. That's the one I tell people if they're getting into gaming and esports and they're an educator,
Mm-hmm.
that's the book you have to read, because you're going to meet those parents who have fallen, I will say fallen, but who have this preconceived notion of what gaming and gaming culture is like. And they only see the negatives, they don't see the positive benefits. And I think the book Moral Combat really does a fantastic job of laying out some of the challenges that gaming and gaming culture has had as it's grown up over the last 50 years, and the changes that are taking place, and looking at some of the data in really new ways that isn't sensationalized by the press. Like the best example I can give you is that somebody says that video games are more addictive than heroin.
I hate that.
And I hate that one too, because first of all, I think it does a terrible job of talking about the dangers that there really, it negates the dangers that there really are with drug addiction and drug abuse. But actually gaming is more along the lines of the dopamine release that you get when you eat pizza or ice cream, the foods that you really love and enjoy. Yes, you eat a lot of it. I know if I get a whole pizza, to me, every pizza is personal sized. So,
Yes.
if I got a large pizza, that's my personal pizza. But I'm not saying that there isn't gaming addiction, but the dopamine release, the chemical release in your brain really is not much more than eating food that you really like. And so, that's just one little tidbit that I like to throw out there, because that seems to be a fact that people throw out quite a bit.
I mean, I think it was Andy Shabilsky from the Oxford Internet Institute, when those headlines come around about heroin. He's like, if you're saying games equate to heroin and aren't taking a step back to think like, what am I saying? Something's wrong there. Something's wrong. Like on face value, that's wrong.
Have you ever met a heroin addict? Have you ever met somebody who's addicted? When you do, or you have somebody like that in your life or your family,
you don't
and I think it's maddening.
It is.
So I'll just say that it's maddening, because when you see it firsthand, it's nothing like it.
Like playing games. Artemis League
Yeah.
in the chat says, such an insightful book. Fan of Moral Combat.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, I did a video on moral panic and games, and every time I said Mortal Kombat, I actually said Moral Combat because I can't get that book out of my head, and I said it multiple times. Like, you know what? Whatever. I'm not redoing it. Okay, so do you think it's more about who you know or what you know?
Ooh. Well, wow.
You cannot say both.
Oh, no, I'm not going to say both.
Okay.
I will say who. Oh boy. I will say who because I don't have all the answers. And it's connecting like with people like you, for example, who I think have really helped to expand what I know. Carrie Linden, who I regularly do our eSports EDU chat, she has been a tremendous help. My girlfriend has been a tremendous help in thinking through a lot of these things. There is so much. I think having those connections. Ken Shelton has been a tremendous friend and teacher to me. David Jakes, when it comes to learning spaces, has been a tremendous educator and teacher to me. There's I think having those solid people connections. You don't have to know everything, but if you go, you know what, I know the person who knows the answer. I think it's a lot of more who than what.
Yeah. Well, and then it sounds like who you know also informs what you know. So that's cyclical. So what do you love most about what you do?
I did say
you
both.
Did say both, but I'm gonna let him go. I'm gonna let go. What do you love most about what you do? I feel like you already answered this question, but maybe
working with kids.
Yeah.
No, working with kids, seeing their faces, seeing the connections made, seeing the aha moments, working with kids.
Do you enjoy games more or less? Oh, go on.
Wait, well, I'll say not just kids. The best part is seeing people, not just kids learn, but people like educators as well. For a lot of them, I teach just as many educators and parents as I do kids. So seeing those aha moments for everybody, being a universal educator, being an educator is for everybody. It's not just for an age group or a grade.
That's true. Just like play.
Yeah.
Just like play.
Mm-hmm.
So do you enjoy games more or less now?
More.
Now that is part of your job. Oh,
more. I appreciate them more. And here's the thing I also appreciate the diversity of games and gameplay. Just if you go into Steam or you go, I think Steam is like, that is an amazing place to go because it is just a marketplace full of everything game wise. There's everything.
Yeah.
It's not like following what Microsoft or PlayStation or Nintendo or EA, or it's not what those are telling you to play, which is Blizzard, whatever. Going in and finding that Among Us or that Fall Guys or oh my gosh, I feel like I should pull up my Steam right now just so I can look at my library because there's some games on here that I've got like Cities Skylines. I'm looking at it right now. Islanders is one of my most relaxing games I've ever played. It's like Sim City, but on islands. It's beautifully fun. The music is so relaxing. I would have never, if I had just subscribed to the, Microsoft, PlayStation, Nintendo things, there's a lot of stuff I would have missed. And so I really enjoy this more that my eyes are getting opened every day to new game experiences and learning from my students some of those game experiences that they love and then saying, well, what can we do with this? How can we integrate this? What can we do more with this if you love it so much? So,
Yeah. Artemis League says, for me, teaching educators is the best because of the ripple effect.
There is a huge ripple effect, yes. And there's been many times, especially when I was a director of technology for many school districts, where we were doing a lot of my specialty for a long time was doing one-to-one rollouts. So iPad, laptop rollouts, and always finding that one teacher who is the most resistant to the new changes in the technology. And those are the people that you need to get earliest. Those are the people you need to get the most and bring them on board and find what makes them happy and find that thing that's going to make their lives easier. And then they become your biggest champions. And it's having those champions, the people who are the most resistant. When you finally find what it is that makes them tick, makes them happy, where you find that commonality, it moves everybody forward, including their students, but also the other teachers in the building too, especially in a lot of ways.
So cool. Okay, so this concludes the formal section of our interview, James.
All right.
Your favorite part's coming. It is now time to get to really know you. We want to really know the man behind the beard. I know you shop local.
Show me what you got.
Oh, he also likes sound effects. If you guys have not watched the Academy of eSports, I don't always get the references. Heating up. But I always appreciate the novelty. All right, so let's get to know something about you, James. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. What color would your lightsaber be? Are you a Star Wars fan?
Purple.
Purple's the best one. Of course, it would be purple. I agree.
I mean, the fact that Samuel Jackson's like in his contract's like, hey, I get a purple lightsaber and I'm the only one who has one. I'm like, that's dope. I'm down with that.
Now he's not the only one. Now James O'Brien also has one. This is one that also GamerDoc. I know you're friends with GamerDoc. She's a friend of your show. She's been on here and she also got this question. Are candy apples really candy?
Well, I mean, fruit is nature's candy. Or so Marge Simpson tells us in an episode of The Simpsons, and all the kids roll their eyes. But I will tell you that if I get my kids a candy apple versus a regular apple, they are dang well eating that candy apple. So I will say it is candy.
How often do you buy your children candy apples?
Well, living in the Midwest of the United States, where Halloween corn mazes, that apple cider donuts is like, the pumpkin farm. Candy apples is a part of that. So at least now is the time of year where we're getting into candy apple season as well.
Okay. So let me ask you this then. For you, are candy apples actually the ones with the candy shell, or are they caramel apples?
Oh, caramel.
They're caramel because they have the candy ones. And I talked about this with GamerDoc and I said, but the candy ones, like with actual candy, they just break your teeth. Like it's got to be the caramel apples.
Oh, I'm all about, and you're talking to the son of a pastry chef.
Nice.
So when it comes to desserts and the quality of the desserts and they have to be, I'm not talking about getting some Andy taffy apple. What do they call them? Affy Tapple. Yeah. The generic ones you get at the, that you find in the produce section.
No, we're not doing that.
No, I'm talking about like going to an actual, an actual bakery
Pumpkin
or whatever and getting a,
go in the hayride.
Getting one made right there.
Get the caramel apple. Yeah, I mean, I'm in Eastern Canada. We do a lot of that here too with the pumpkin.
Take off, eh?
Apple picking. Yeah, eh? Right. Comes out every once in a while. What is your favorite Quentin Tarantino film?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I saw Pulp Fiction like 20 times. Ironically, at the same theater that Tilt and the ice rink was.
Back to
because it was the Dollar Theater, and I saw Pulp Fiction like 20 times one summer. Like I think I saw it once every day for like 7 straight days.
Oh wow.
But you know what was? It's not so much the movie that gets me of any Tarantino movie. It's the soundtracks. It's the music.
Pulp Fiction soundtrack is excellent.
Beginning to end, the Pulp Fiction sound. The Reservoir Dogs is very good. Yeah. But Pulp Fiction soundtrack to me is the best.
Ezekiel 25:17. Path of
Ezekiel 25:13. Is it 25:13? 25:17? No, you know what? Now I've got to get a whole bunch of sounds. I'm gonna have to get a bunch of new sounds for Pulp Fiction.
You need, and the only reason I know that whole monologue is because it's on the soundtrack, because I have the soundtrack, or I did when CDs were a thing. Okay, which is your favorite streamer to watch that isn't me? It says.
Well, I will. Even though I've had her on the podcast, I will say, because I know you've been on her show too. Lindsay, GamerDoc.
I know. I love her show.
She is a star in the making. She is she is. She's engaging, fun, funny, intelligent, red and fire red hair, which just is out. It's like, poof, it makes me jealous.
She's also,
But
a real doctor, not like me.
yes, and she, not you and I. I mean, well, I'm not yet, but
you're almost.
But yeah, and yes, but I think her and she pairs up really well with Dr. Sarah too, and
she does.
they are. I can pop in, watch them for a little bit, and pop out, and it's like I got something out of it, whether I got entertained or I learned some new knowledge or whatever. It's one of my favorites.
Did you watch her play Ocarina?
No.
No.
Well, wait. No, wait.
She was doing a Zelda playthrough.
No, I didn't see it.
No. Okay.
Again, my last couple of weeks have been interesting where I just get home and I don't want to be on the computer anymore. So
no, I mean,
yeah.
I totally understand. Okay. Are you a gambler? Before I ask this question, let me ask you, do you gamble? Are you a casino goer?
Well, I do love the slot machines. Okay. And thankfully they're not legal in any bars and restaurants here in Wisconsin where like they are in Illinois. But I'm not a huge gambler. We'll just say I do like the occasional slots, but I won't, people start talking about gambling on the radio. I'll just turn it off.
Well, we'll see what your answer to this question is.
Okay.
The question is, you walk up to a roulette table. Where do you place your bet?
Bet on black.
Bet on black. 50-50. That's a
bet on black.
Wise choice.
Or the pass line. Actually, I found that the easiest way to do it is the pass line.
Yeah, there you go. Very good. Oh, there you go. Topical. It's like the topical gods are getting here. We have candy apples, and then we have what did you do for Halloween last year? And the before times when we could do Halloween things.
Turned lights to my house and stayed inside.
What? You have kids. You didn't go trick-or-treating?
Well, again, divorced, middle-aged man, kids, live with mom up north.
Okay. So you didn't have
16. They I don't think they really do. My kids love Halloween culture. I'll tell you that. My middle one, especially though this year, my oldest, she was born on the 30th of October. So she almost has a really cool. Birthday. So I've got my oldest, she was born on the 30th, the day before Halloween. My middle child was born on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, wow.
And my youngest didn't make it to 4th of July. I thought we were going to have a 4th of July baby. He didn't make it. And I was like telling my ex, like, just hold it. And she's like,
it doesn't work that way.
Like that doesn't work out. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you turned off your lights. You didn't even buy candy.
Turned off my lights and hid inside.
That's what I'm going to do this year. Turn off my lights and hide inside. Do you meditate?
Yeah. And it's not anything that I have like a set routine, we shall say. Mm-hmm. But there are times of the day where I know I just need to shut the door, either stand up or sit down and take about 10 minutes and just breathe. And it helps bring clarity. And again, it's turn off the phones, take off the smartwatch, turn off all the lights, get the room completely dark if you can, and just breathe. Yeah. And it's helpful. It's helpful.
And it's so good, even like physiologically, like just taking those deep breaths. And I love the point that you make. A lot of people talk about meditation and they think, I need a special guided meditation or I need to know what I'm doing. No, you can just turn off the lights and sit there for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you when you start to really think of like focus on the silence of where you are, it's amazing how quickly all the other things that are at least for me, it's amazing how quickly the things that are weighing me down disappear.
Oh, for sure.
When I just focus on the silence.
Yeah.
And you find out, and if something is, for me, if something is still sticking in my head, I know it's important. If it's not sticking in my head, it's a momentary thing and it will pass. Then I know it helps me to prioritize to what's really going on. So
that's an excellent point. Meditation is good for everyone, just like therapy is good for everyone.
Absolutely.
Do you like amusement parks?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, okay. I thought
we cannot just stop. I mean, if I could sit at the front row of every roller coaster ever, I absolutely would. If I could, I love, like we have a Renaissance fair, like like a regular one, like 30 minutes from my house. Love that. We have Great America just over the border in Illinois. Love that. I love amusement parks. I absolutely do. I just think that and the roller coaster experience is just fantastic. Disney, love going to Disney. And my favorite Disney experience was when I was probably 12 years old. My family went down to Disneyland. I got lost.
Oh,
and wait, this gets better. I went through every ride line looking for my family. So rather than going to a central location, I was like, well, I'm going to go see if they're in this ride line or the ones that I wanted to go on. So I got a whole day at Disneyland by myself, which got me in trouble. But yes,
you got to ride.
I like amusement parks.
Oh my!
God. I even had a. Go ahead.
No, go.
I was even okay. Yeah. I was in Orlando for a conference, and for whatever reason, I got there a day early. Like I think I was supposed to do a pre-con, and it got canceled or something. And I'm in Orlando, and I'm like going, wait a second, I'm on a Disney property. And I ran downstairs, and I'm like, how much for 1 day pass? They're like, oh, you want to hop to all? And they gave me like suggestions, and I ate my way through Epcot, and then I did the Magic Kingdom in the evening, and I did Animal Kingdom. Like it was the best day. I had just a whole day to burn on Disney, and I did it by myself. And it was, what's great too is when you're by yourself, they're like, hey, who has just one person? And it's like you lose like an hour because you're the only one who's there, in line. Rather than standing 2 hours in a line, you're only there for like 15 minutes because you're just one person. So
oh man, I know. I tell my friends all the time I want to go to Universal Studios by myself. Like not with my kids. Like I just want to go and see all Diagon Alley and buy a wand and like not be with my kids. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, my kids are still little. Come on, they're 5 and 3. They're still too little for Disney. Have you ever? This is an old person question. Children of the 80s. I'm kindred spirit with you. This old person question. Have you ever waited in line to get a new game at midnight?
Yes. The last one I did was StarCraft 2.
StarCraft 2. I waited in line to get the World of Warcraft expansion, that one that made your level go past 60. I forget which. Lich King? Maybe?
See, I have a friend who she should be a World of Warcraft streamer. She's been playing World of Warcraft for, I think, since the beginning. She's classic.
Oh,
okay?
Wow.
She would be an amazing follow on a stream, and I've tried to get her to do it. And she's a housewife. She doesn't have a job during the day, plays a lot of tennis. I'm like, you are the person who should do this. Like you have a different, take on everything. You're high. I mean, like super high, like she flies everywhere. I don't know what it means, but she can basically go take down dragons by herself or something. I don't know. Yeah. But that game is, when you're talking about that, I know people who are like, yes, I waited for that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, I was super into World of Warcraft for a while, and then I went to grad school, and I realized I have no time for World of Warcraft. Mr. Gao waited for Call of Duty Black Ops. Call of Duty Black Ops was a big one. I remember when I was doing my PhD, as I was mentioning earlier, when I had to constantly defend that games are worth money, Call of Duty was always the one, like, the single title that made the most money in, like, 24 hours of sales or whatever. It was always the statistic that I went to. All right, you have one more question.
Oh, wow, already?
That was 10. This is kind of a little rapid fire. Although I have another one I want to ask you, but I'll ask you this and then you'll get a bonus one.
Ooh.
What is your favorite animated Disney movie? It's the one I pulled out of the hat.
Hercules.
Really? That is like from a left field choice.
I love Hercules. And the other one I would say that, okay, I love Hercules because of James Woods, not because of his politics, because of his role as Hades. He was amazing as Hades. James Woods was fantastic as Hades. The second one that is a super close second is The Emperor's New Groove.
What? Of all the animated movies, wow. I thought I knew you.
Eartha Kitt and Patrick Warburton were Kronk and Yzma. First of all, I have to tell my kids, like we're watching the movie, and I'm like, have you ever seen Eartha Kitt? And they're like, no. And I'm like, she looks like Yzma. I mean, she's like, it's like they took her and drew her as Yzma. And, I just, oh yeah, it's all coming together. Like I could do sort of the Patrick Warburton voice too, which kind of helps because I can do Kronk. Oh yeah, the Cuzco's, castle, whatever it was. So yeah, those two movies are like neck and neck.
Mr. Gao says those are solid choices.
Thank you, Mr. Gao.
He approves. The question I was going to ask that is actually not one of the 100 in here, and I feel like I should just ask everybody this anyway, because it comes up as like a meme every once in a while on Twitter and Facebook, and I feel like it really does tell you a lot about the person. What movie do you know? What movie do you know Tim Curry from?
Oh, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. See, I do know you. I knew I liked you.
All right, watch this. You ready for this? This is your added bonus.
Oh, let's hear it.
How do you do, I? Oh. See, you've met my faithful handyman. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were the candy man. So yeah, that's a little bit of Sweet Transvestite. And I could do the whole. I've karaoke'd the whole thing in bars. See? Yeah.
So why don't on Halloween you just like get dressed up? You could. It seems like you go to Renaissance fairs, you like Rocky Horror, but you close the doors and turn off the lights on Halloween. Missed opportunities, I feel like.
Well, if I could, if there was a play revival of Rocky Horror, I would go try out to be Frankenfurter.
Yeah. Your voice was pretty good.
If not Eddie, I could be Eddie. But if I had to do, like, obviously Clue is a close second.
Clue was wonderful.
Annie. Well, Annie, when he was Rooster and Annie.
Deep cut.
What's that?
It's a deep cut. It's not one usually.
Oh, yes.
People talk about. Yep.
Well, the one that a lot of people don't know is what was the one with Tom Cruise and he played the bighorn devil guy. It was not Labyrinth. It was
not Labyrinth.
Somebody in the chat probably knows this one, but even in that role, he didn't even recognize it was Tim Curry until after you're like, oh, that's Tim Curry.
Let's see. Well, now I have to figure out what it is. I love Rocky Horror is always my answer, but Clue was one of those movies. I'm looking through IMDb to try to find the name of that movie. Clue is one of those movies that I would watch as a kid back in the olden days before you could stream television. Like it would just be on the TV at like midnight on like a Wednesday, and the scene where the singing telegram person comes to the door. That lady freaked me out. I had nightmares about that singing telegram. The way she like, I don't know, like her arm movements. There's something about her. She was so freaky to me as a kid.
So I'll share. You want a secret? I think you should ask a question like, what's a big secret you want to share with everybody?
What's a big secret you would like to share with the class, James? Please tell.
So to in that same vein of being freaked out by the singing telegram person, when I was a child, I would watch Captain Kangaroo. And Captain Kangaroo, for those of you who don't know, was like a kids show in the 70s, I think it was started in the 50s or something, but it was kind of like Mr. Rogers in a lot of ways. It had characters and whatever. Well, Captain Kangaroo had a grandfather clock. And my mom would say, Captain Kangaroo would be like, well, let's go see Mr. Grandfather Clock. And my mom said I'd be sitting there on the couch and my eyes would, as soon as he said it, my eyes would get really wide. And as soon as the grandfather clock, he went over and started talking to him and his eyes popped open, I was out of the room. Like as soon as that clock started talking, I was gone.
Clock. Oh, wow.
Something about the clock. Yeah. So I was scared of the clock in Captain Kangaroo.
Was the movie Legend?
Yes, that's it. It's the movie Legend. Yes. And Deeper Cut.
Yes.
Tim Curry in The Hunt for Red October. Also brilliant.
That is a great movie. I don't even like those kinds.
He played the I think it was the KGB officer. In that.
Tim Curry. There are few actors I love as much as I love Tim Curry. I would argue
he's one of our greatest actors.
Oh,
he's right up there. For me, he's like Alec Guinness, Omar Sharif, Sir Laurence Olivier, Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
Like there was a Mount Rushmore of male actors. He's up there with them.
Oh, Mr. Gao said, was it Legend? Okay, I had to Google it. He just got it. All right. Yes, it was Legend. I haven't seen it. I just saw the screenshot, though. You would never know that was him. Like, there's way too much makeup on him.
Yes.
Yes, Tim Curry. Did you see the remake of Rocky Horror? But Tim Curry was the narrator. Did you see that? I felt strange. I don't know how I feel about it, but it was sad to me to see Tim Curry not in his glory days.
Well, I mean, it's the fact that he could still be the narrator and
No,
pull
I
it
mean
off,
that's
and he was
nice.
the only.
Yeah.
He was the to me he was the only agreeable thing that
Yeah,
worked for that whole
that's actually a fair
show.
point. It was the only redeemable quality about the remake.
It was.
Yeah.
And I'm not all about. There's one other movie that, like, I felt Rocky Horror needs to be left alone. Don't remake it.
Oh,
Don't do
yeah.
anything to it. Just
No,
show
no,
the
no.
dang movie.
Yeah.
The other one that I'm really panicking about, and it's because it involves The Rock, who I love. I love watching, him act. Is there's rumors that they're remaking Big Trouble in Little China, and Big Trouble in Little China involves it's Kurt Russell, and a bunch of other people. All of a sudden, just drawing a blank. But that movie should never be remade. That one stands alone as perfect the way it is. So,
Did you see? I saw this just last night. They remade Witches. Witches. You can't remake Witches.
they did.
Yes. With Anne
With
Hathaway.
wait,
who I
that's with
love.
Sarah Jessica Parker and or
No.
with
That's Hocus Pocus.
Eastwick.
Witches is the one with
Hocus
Angelica Houston. You know, where they're bald and they take their shoes off. It's based off. It's not a Roald Dahl book. I always want to say it's a Roald Dahl book, but he's not the author of it. It's based on a book, and the movie's just so good. And it turns the kid into mice, and then I don't know how else. It's a great movie.
I don't
It's a
know that
classic.
one.
It's a classic. I don't know how you don't know it. We're of the same era. They remade it, and I feel not good about it. Witches.
Well, you have Witches. I have Big Trouble in Little China.
You have yeah. The Witches, yeah. They remade it with Anne Hathaway.
Oh, I like her.
I love her.
Do you know?
But,
Do you know who my if he's okay? My guilty pleasure movies. You need to add this as a question. What's a guilty pleasure movie?
All right, give it to me.
I'll ask you this: what is your guilty pleasure movie?
Oh, so
The one you'd almost be ashamed to tell people that you love. You'll if it's on, you'll pop it in. You own the DVD that nobody owns.
I will always watch The Devil Wears Prada.
My man.
You and me both. Stanley Tucci. If Stanley Tucci is in anything, I will watch it.
It's a
Stanley
great movie.
Tucci to me, I watched that stupid Transformers movie because Stanley Tucci was in it. Devil Wears Prada is one of my guilty pleasure movies. Thank you, Dr. Cohort, for that.
Oh, good. Okay, what are you going to tell us? Tell us your another one of your guilty pleasure movies.
So I've got two more. Bring It On with Kirsten Dunst as the.
I do like that movie. Yeah, yep, that's a good one. True.
Hey, it's cold in here. There must be some toros in the atmosphere. And the other one is a mockumentary, and it also it stars Kirsten Dunst. Is called Drop Dead Gorgeous, and it's a mockumentary of a beauty pageant in rural Minnesota.
Oh.
So it's very much like a Christopher Guest type movie, like all of the mock, like Spinal Tap and Best in Show and all that. It's very much in the same style.
Okay, well then
Love
I'll
it.
have to add that to my list because I do like
Yes.
Spinal Tap and Best in Show. And I'm glad we share a love for Devil Wears Prada. Well, thank you. We've gone
That
over.
is amazing.
We've gone over our time, but it's
Yes.
okay. Thank you for coming. It's been great.
Thank you for having me.
And learn a bit about you. And you can follow Jim at Jim O'Hagan on the Twitters. And he also hosts the Academy of Esports every week. It's every week, isn't it?
I do.
Every week.
The Academy and the Esports EDU chats on Thursday nights on Twitch.
There you go. So that's where you can find him. Until next time,
Yep.
everybody, be excellent to each other. And I'll see you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.